Hey everyone, welcome to Roundball Stew. I am Matt Stroup. It is Monday, October 17th, and today, one day before the start of the NBA regular season, we are looking at some of our favorite picks and some of our biggest regrets of this draft season. Essentially, some notable takeaways from all the fantasy drafts we've collectively done, which will hopefully be helpful whether you've already drafted all your teams and you're wondering what you did, or you still have some drafts left to go. So we'll get into all of that and more coming up. I'm joined by Jared Johnson and Dr. A, Steve Alexander. And guys, I just got to say up front, if you're watching this on video, you may notice I have a slight wound on my nose. And this is a basketball-related injury. I recently broke a finger playing basketball, actually, like in an actual pickup basketball game. I'm just coming back from that. This injury was a little more embarrassing how it happened. I was playing horse with my son over the weekend, and it got to occasionally pull out the over the backboard shot. You know what I mean? From behind the backboard, a staple of any horse game. So I was shooting one of those, and ball goes up, left a little short, came down the back, hard carom off the back side of the backboard, and just rocketed right into my face. So that's why I have this slight scratch on my nose, which is pretty embarrassing. Embarrassed about
How
that.
did your son react? Do you think it was funny, or was he scared?
Yeah, he loves it. Anytime dad gets hit in the head with anything. It's great. That's the best. How can you beat it?
That's
I was also
good.
I was also at a family gathering Sunday night, and like 3 consecutive people within 4 minutes were like, "Oh hey, something's wrong with your nose." Like, "Hey Matt, what happened to your nose? Matt, your nose." Like, have I not talked to you? Did we not just talk about everyone? I was like. Anyways,
Dude,
I
when
know.
I was
I'm an idiot.
when I was like in 8th grade, I was playing golf with my father, and I hit a 3-iron, and it hit a tree about 2 inches wide, 15 yards in front of me, and came back and hit me squarely between the eyes. And
Yeah.
I had a pair of Ray-Bans on it, like shattered those, and
Like
I had this huge knot on my head. And people were calling me Knothead. That was pretty.
We can call me Knothead for the rest of this podcast if we want to.
No strip.
I'm happy to go by that. No strip. You can call me No Strip if you want. It does kind of look like I have like a breathe right thing on my head. Okay. Anyways. We're gonna move on. Takeaways from drafts, fantasy drafts we've done, mistakes, regrets. Victory laps, any of the above. We'll get into some late round flyers, a little speed round later. So I'm going to start here. And I was just noticing this morning, guys. This is about Tyrese Halliburton, just a takeaway. For all of the hype, on average, he still didn't quite get into the first round of your average Yahoo fantasy draft. The Yahoo ADP sits at 14.1 on the eve of the season. On average, he's the 12th player off the board. So technically, sure. Okay. Yeah, but I guess... Jared, starting, I'm just a little surprised that you can still land him in the second round in some leagues, and it just still feels like a huge advantage. I haven't really talked to you about Halliburton much, Jared. Are you as excited as everyone else is heading to the season on this guy?
I don't think I'm quite as high on Tyrese Halliburton as Zach and Ryan are, and I like him. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but I have him ranked at 15. So for average ADP of 14, that sounds very reasonable to me. I think we get a little bit hyper obsessed about like first round. And honestly, the league is so talented now. I think that we have roughly 20 first round players. So it doesn't like whether he's going at the end of round 1 or at the top of round 2. I think that's about where he should go. And I think he's going to have a really good season. Right.
But I mean, in the same breath, you got to make sure you nail that second round. It's all the more pressure to nail that second round pick, right? I mean, if other people are getting effectively 2 first round guys, potentially, you want to be one of those people.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think that I'm not concerned about him not performing. Like, I don't understand. Like, the only negative would be him getting shut down. And you could say that about so many different players. It's almost like the health thing is really uniquely tied to Jokic at this point. And honestly, you're only healthy till you're not. And, Jokic had that preseason wrist issue. So,
right. Steve, do you feel that Ryan and Zach failed by not getting Halliburton's average draft position into the first round? Is that too harsh to say?
Absolutely, they have completely failed. No, I don't think that was the goal. I mean, it's kind of funny. I guess looking at it, I guess we could be like, hey guys, like we have a meeting to be like, let's see, like trading places with Eddie Murphy. Like, let's see if we can take this guy and make him a thing. Like that'd be kind of fun to do. I don't know that we've ever intentionally done that though, and I know that the Halliburton hype was pretty high. I think Ryan took him 5th in the draft I'm sitting here looking at, and I know he was going first round in every draft that I did. I think the drafts he didn't go first round in were maybe from people who don't read Roto World or don't listen to our podcast. But no, they didn't fail. I love Halliburton. I hope he doesn't get shut down. I hope the Pacers, if I was the Pacers, man, I would be tanking it up so hard. I'd be like, I'm playing Halliburton. Yeah. I'm playing Mathurin, or however you say his name. And then nobody else. I'm not playing anyone else. Like those 2 guys and a bunch of scrubs are all we're putting out there.
Okay. Next topic here. I just feel like, and I want you guys to tell me whether you think I'm wrong. I feel like the fantasy hoops world may have once again another year that everyone is slightly too low on Tari Rozier. I think in the past couple years, we were way too low on average where he drafted. And this year, still a little too low, I think. The ADP, 47.5 on Yahoo. Last year, this guy was the 30th ranked player in 9 category leagues. And this stat line, what are you going to argue with? 19.3 points, 4.3 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 1.3 steals, 3.0 three-pointers, 44 from the field, 85 from the line, a guard who gets 1.3 turnovers. It's a 9-category dream. Jared, I saw you nodding emphatically while I was saying that. So let's hear your thoughts first.
I love Scary Terry this year. I think that you're absolutely right. His ADP is pretty darn low. I've seen him regularly go round 5. I'm fine with taking him round 4. I think that he's going to have an incredible season. Look, Miles Bridges, I think, is unlikely to play. But you could look at his numbers the past 2 years, and they're pretty darn similar. There's a little bit scoring the previous season when Miles Bridges was significantly less part of the offense. But, he's been a steady top 40 player for 2 years running. Top 30 last year, top 40 the previous season. He's not a chucker anymore. He's been shooting good percentages. Right. And I just think that there's an absolute feast to be had in Charlotte with Miles Bridges potentially out for the year. And also, LaMelo Ball looks like he may start the season on the sidelines. So that's some more just right out the gates, some more playmaking and shot opportunities for Mr. Scary Terry. I absolutely love him. I think it's excellent value in the 5th round or later.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a matter of if LaMelo is going to miss the start of the season. I think he's going to sit for like a month, 3 weeks maybe. So yeah, I think that helps Tari Rozier, like you said, Miles Bridges being up in the air and probably not playing this year. That helps him. I mean, this is a team that's going to be looking at Dennis Smith Jr. as their point guard, I think, for a minute. So Tari Rozier should carry the weight of the world on his shoulders for that team. And I don't have him on any of my teams.
Yeah.
And he's not one of my guys, but I mean, you're right. I mean, if you get him 5th or 6th round, it should just be an absolute steal.
To Jared's point, I'm more than happy to take him in the 4th round myself. Okay, next one. And by the way, on LaMelo, I mean, maybe not. I think Jared and I both would, not being doctors, guess less than a month based on what we've read. To start the season. But I mean, could easily, I don't know, is it a couple weeks? Is it a few weeks? Either way, I think we're still drafting LaMelo proactively. Just have to be prepared to weather that absence. And one way to do that is to draft Rozier. Because I do not mind pairing those two guys together in fantasy at all. I did that in at least one league last year, and it was a lot of fun. This next one is a regret for me as well. I feel like at the moment I don't have enough OG Anunoby. I got him in a draft that I do with some friends on Sunday night. Coming off that 32-point preseason game, 2 blocks, 4 triples. The scoring average has gone up every year he's been in the league. We've talked about this before. It went from 5.9 to 7 to 10.6 to 15.9 to 17.1. Jared, I'd say the main question here is health. 43 and 48 games played the last 2 years, but I know at least last year you were high on OG Anunoby. So how did that experience shape you after getting a very productive guy, but for only 48 games?
Right. So I have him about 50-50 split in my leagues. I am somewhat concerned about the health. I'm somewhat concerned about Scotty Barnes taking another leap and taking some of his shots away from him. But, like I said, I have him in about 50% of my leagues. So I took the swing half the time. He's a really talented player. He can give you elite steals. Like you said, the scoring's been going up. Let's see if he can really become that. Can he be a number 2 option or like a 2B next to Siakam and Fred VanVleet? See, that's where I'm concerned about how he's going to get those shots. But you got to love the steals numbers that the defensive stats, the triples. He does it all, and he really doesn't hurt you anywhere. So it's just if he can get through 60-plus games, I think he'll be an absolute steal from round 5.
I don't have any OG Anunoby on my team. Not one of my guys. I think the 5th round, I was spending all my energy on the Alperen Şengün's and Desmond Baines of the world. Maybe some Jalen Brunson, maybe some Devin Vassell, but I missed out on Anunoby. Good player, solid value, kind of boring. Just not really a Dr. A combination of things there. And yes, I did just talk about myself in the third person.
The next name on the list here for me is Miles Turner. And this is another regret, guys, because I feel personally that I never figured out what my stance was or is on Miles Turner this year in fantasy. I have a lot of players I feel strongly about drafting or not drafting, and I could never quite dial in what to do about this guy who has a Yahoo ADP of 40. He's dominant in blocks when he plays, 2.8 this past season, but he's coming off a year where he played just 42 games. Steve, if anything, I think I landed on maybe a soft fade of Miles Turner, but I mean, in a draft on Sunday night, I'm sitting there thinking maybe this is the draft where I take him. I can't quite do it, but I know that this is potentially a great pick in the 4th round. Where do you land on this one? And I want to hear from you too, Jared.
I've always been a Miles Turner guy. He's always been on my teams. I keep talking about that team I had last year that had LaMelo and Luka on it, along with Jared Allen and Miles Turner, and we just rolled people. And then Miles Turner and Jared Allen both went down. And once that happened, that season was over. I did not like losing Miles Turner last year. I do not like the trade rumors surrounding him this year. I don't like the tank fest that's going to happen with the Pacers. And we don't know where Miles Turner may land. I don't love him if he stays in Indy. So I don't have any shares of Miles Turner. Now, we do have one more major draft coming this evening. It's Jared Johnson's company league.
The big one.
Matt, there will be your chance maybe to get you some Miles Turner.
But why don't you like the trade rumors? Because if you don't want him to stay in Indiana, I mean, I don't really think his stats get worse on another team. He's able to do...
Depends on where he goes.
But he's able to look at his minutes. I think there were about 28 last year. So he's able to do top 40 numbers with under 30 minutes a night, basically. I wasn't over the moon with Miles Turner to start the season, but when we saw injuries to Robert Williams and Jaren Jackson Jr., and just the disparity of shot blocking centers this season, I had to bump him up a little bit. I have him in a couple leagues. I like him way more in roto formats because I've just seen him even in 50 games. He just dominates that shot blocking category. It's basically a guaranteed 12 for you. And I've seen in multiple seasons, multiple leagues, basically Miles Turner being one of the key factors in winning those. I'm less excited about him in head-to-head formats, but I still would take him just because of the amount of the lack of shot blocking centers. And it kind of would depend on who's available around 4. I prefer Jarrett Allen. But, if there's a run on centers and the drop off is Miles Turner or Jonas Valanciunas, I want Miles Turner.
That's fair. I think my move I find myself going with is waiting on Turner and taking the discount, or what I see as a discount, on Clint Capella, which I've mentioned a lot. So, I mean, others may disagree with that. Yeah.
This is like the first year that I don't like Clint.
What?
I know. Last season, I felt like he took a somewhat of a step back. And I'm
for sure
marginally concerned about this timeshare with Onyeka. And the shot blocking numbers were about 1 last season. I did not love that.
Yeah, 1.3. But I hear you.
If you find yourself needing a center round 7 and you need some boards, I get it. But it's not. I used to be so excited to take him round 4, and I'm just, I don't know. I'm concerned about him this season.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it, and I think in round 7, I mean, I think probably the worst you're getting is what you got last year, and as 11 points, 12 rebounds, 1.3 blocks, and I can live with that in round 7. And I do think he's got the chance for more. Onyeka Okongwu is coming on, but the Hawks, have hopes of contending this year. They're not just going to ditch their starting center, who's one of the highest paid players on the team. You know?
It's just that if we're talking round 7, I think I've seen him go later, so maybe this is unfair. But like, if it's like MPJ or Clint Capella, I want MPJ. The upside. There's not a lot of upside on Clint anymore. It's kind of like, I need a center at this point. He's a solid center, but I don't think he's really going to massively exceed that position.
That's fair. So, I guess my next player up here is, and I guess kind of a similar idea, where a guy in a similar part of the draft where I never really figured out where I landed, and that's Bradley Beal. His Yahoo ADP has settled at 35.4, and that's obviously coming off a disappointing season where he only played 40 games. I mean, in theory, we should feel great about this. This is a guy who, can be a top 15 player potentially. He has that kind of ceiling. So, Jared, are you high on Beal this year?
Yes.
Coming off a year where per game he was actually in the 70s in terms of ranking in 9 category leagues.
Well, I mean, I think he shot like 30% from 3 last season.
He was struggling.
It's just it's insanely low. I think his average is close to 38. He's an elite marksman. So he had a bum wrist that required surgery. I'm going to chalk it up to that. I do have a lot of shares of Beal. I think that getting him in round 4 is incredible value. I'm pretty confident he'll exceed that. Aside from last season, he's been a steady top 20 stud forever. So I'm pretty confident that he's going to have a bounce back year. I also took him in the 30 deep dynasty league, so a little bit biased, but
Sir Steve.
Last 3 years, 57, 60, 40 games played. Feel like he's a guy we always should have been drafting in the 3rd round and not at the end of the 1st round. I always felt like he was overvalued or overhyped when he was going like 12th or 13th. This sounds a lot more reasonable to me. It feels like he should be a solid value pick if he can stay healthy this year. I'm always worried about his leg. Had the wrist thing last year. Washington's always kind of a mess, so they could be in on the Tankapalooza here. But, I have 0 Beal on my team, but it's not because I didn't want him on my team. I just had other guys. He's a little too old for my blood.
He's not that old.
I think he's 29. I've got him down as 29.
I don't like the 25 is pretty much my cutoff.
I'm gonna double check that age while we're doing it. Yeah, he's 29.
That's
I'm closer. I'm closer to where you are, Jared, and I think 35. I mean, or slightly later. It's just a worthwhile swing to take, And the floor last season, granted the injuries were there, but the floor was like 23 points, 6.5 assists or something like that, even while he was shooting miserably. I mean,
exactly.
It was disappointing, but it wasn't like, oh no, this guy's ruining my team. It was just, I'm not getting what I expected, but it was still pretty good.
3.4 turnovers too.
Yeah, not great, but good
That's
assist
okay
numbers.
with
I
the
don't know.
dimes. Yeah.
I'm cautiously excited about him. But it's taken me a while to get there. Jared convinced me. Steve's still shaking his head. Steve,
No.
speaking of shaking your head, I know you had some thoughts on Anthony Edwards that you wanted to share, a takeaway from draft season here.
Oh yeah, I just somebody on Twitter was like, "Why are you so down on Anthony Edwards?" I was like, "What are you talking about? I love Ant. I love Ant." And he's like, "Well, you had him ranked kind of low in the draft guide." And I went back and looked at it. I did have him ranked too low, so I that was just an oversight on my part. I do like Anthony Edwards. I really like what's going on in Minnesota. Um, I think they're going to be fun to watch and fun to root for. And Ant's a movie star now. He had the big Adam Sandler movie over the summer, so he's feeling good. And I just feel like he's gonna take another step forward and kind of explode this year, I think.
Jared, where are you on Edwards as a guy you really are going
Yeah,
to have to
I love
take in?
him. I think that he's going to be flirting with all-star numbers. I think that he could be an all-star. I foresee him taking a massive leap this season. I would be comfortable taking him in round 2. I think he's been stolen from me a lot. I'm not sure I have him in any of my leagues, but yeah, I think that he's going to have a great season. I love the steals numbers. I love the points. I love the triples. I love everything about him.
Okay, hey Jared, your audio just crackled again. I'm going to take you out. I'll remove you, and then just close your browser and come back in. Okay.
I'll remove. Rest easy. I'll remove you.
I will press some buttons. Okay. Okay, we have more to come. First, we're going to take a very quick break. The basketball season is almost here, and you can get a jump start on your draft with the Roto World Fantasy Draft Guide. Get player profiles, expert rankings, mock drafts, and more. Use code HOOPS5 at checkout and get yours for just $5. Go to NBCSportsEdge.com/Edge Plus today. Also, I want to remind you to download the Roto World app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It is available in your app store today. Okay, guys, we're back to it. And I'll just say, Steve was saying he doesn't draft players over 25, and this next idea jumps off of that. I think we've gone too far when it comes to not wanting to draft one of my favorite old guys, maybe my favorite old guy, Al Horford. Now, this guy was inside the top 50 of 9 category leagues last season. He actually played 69 games, which is a great number for pretty much anyone these days in the NBA. For the regular season, 10.2 points, 7.7 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 0.7 steals, 1.3 blocks, 1.3 threes. He was even better than that in the playoffs. We talk about the scarcity of blocks. I think these are cheap blocks with a Yahoo ADP of 84. Steve, I know I've just convinced you that this is a great value in the 7th round of your draft. It's not exciting, but man, what a great glue guy. You've taken some big swings early. You're going to take some big swings late. This is the linchpin that holds it all together. It's Al Horford.
I mean, you're not really wrong. And my problem with Horford, other than the fact that he is like a grandpa.
And boring.
No, I'm a grandpa. But other than his age, I think I just wrote him off at the beginning of the season. Like, this is the year of our Time Lord. And, Robert Williams is going to go nuts. And therefore, Al Horford's just going to be a role guy off the bench. And I sort of wrote off Al Horford at that point. And then Robert Williams got hurt. So now Horford is a lot more relevant now than he was, when we first started doing these drafts. So, and I think if you can get that guy in the 8th round or wherever he's going that late, it's just automatic free goodies.
Yeah, I mean, everything you're saying is true. It's just I don't believe it. I don't know. And I get it. Look, I'm not saying that Horford's bad, but I'm just saying that after that Time Lord injury, his ADP just cratered. And I've been actually plucking him up in the 8th round. I know that he's not going to be back for a while.
Oh, Time Lord. I see.
Time Lord. Yeah. But in leagues that offer like multiple IL spots, all my leagues have 3. I think getting Time Lord round 8 is excellent value. And they're kind of going in the same place. It's usually like Time Lord goes or Al Horford goes and vice versa. I would rather have the Time Lord, even though he's injured, than old man Horford. Sorry.
It's fine. I mean, look, it's. I'm not saying everyone. It's not for everyone, but I just think that it's a great. I think it's a phenomenal value, and I don't like drafting that many quote unquote boring old guys on my roster. But if I'm going to draft one, I think it's Horford. That's all I'm saying.
Well, he was really good last year. I don't know how much more rest he's going to get this year. I don't know. I don't know when Father Time catches up with him, but he was really fun and solid last year. And that was the year after Oklahoma City shut him down early, right? So, yeah.
He got shut down. Yeah, that was
the year before.
Oh, boy. So, lost track of the Al Horford timeline. But
I think
there's OKC, Philly, and then Boston.
I think he's going to be good.
So now a sharp turn in the other direction. I want to talk a little bit about rookies, and I want to keep this pretty open-ended. Start with you, Jared, and then we'll go to you, Steve. Jared, did you find yourself drafting many of the rookies this year? Top rookies, I should say. And if so, who is your favorite rookie to draft at or around ADP?
It's tough to choose between Keegan Murray or Jabari Smith. But I've had that decision made for me a lot, drafting in leagues with Ryan and Zach. Yeah. They're going to take
Tyrese Halliburton. Oh, okay.
They're going to take Keegan Murray before me, but I don't think it's a bad pick. I think it's a great pick. I love Jabari Smith Jr. I think that getting him, I've been reaching for him round 7. I'm fine with it. I think that he's going to have an incredible season. A lot of the times where we've seen Evan Mobley would be an example where we saw, LaMelo Ball would be an example where we saw someone who was projected to go number 1 overall, and then they dropped to 3. That's what happened with Jabari. He's in an excellent spot in Houston. Houston literally unloaded Christian Wood to make room for whoever was incoming, and it happened to be Jabari Smith. So I love him. I'm fine with taking him round 7. I think he's going to do a lot of good things. I think that he's going to finish with a higher ranking than Şengün.
Yeah, I've been putting both of those guys in my queue next to each other, and I'm kind of like, whichever one is there, I'm gonna take, in the 6th round or whatever. And then if they're both there, I'm going Keegan Murray. I'm on the Zach train with that one. I love Keegan Murray. He seems custom built for Sacramento. I don't really trust Mike Brown all that much. And the fact that he hasn't automatically named him a starter kind of makes me mad, but I'll get over it. And I think it's going to take more than Mike Brown to hold back Keegan Murray. I think he's going to be a monster.
Yeah.
So Jabari Smith, we should say, is dealing with an ankle injury, I guess, as of Monday midday. I think we're a little unsure whether he'll be ready for the opener, but it doesn't sound like anything that should really affect him too significantly. So I wouldn't really move him on my draft board as a result of that. I would just know that if I draft him, I may not have him for the first game, potentially.
Isn't Keegan Murray in the protocols, or is that over?
He was. I don't know what the latest is there either.
I think he was.
But again,
yesterday.
A 1, 2, 3 game absence isn't going to affect where I draft a guy.
Yeah, me either.
I do want to ask you guys about Paolo Banchero, because on average, he is going highest among the rookies. 74.3 is his ADP on Yahoo. Jared, less excited about Paolo, or is that more about where you have to draft him to get him?
Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I just hate his situation in Orlando, and he's been completely off my radar. I'm just not looking to draft him. I think amongst the rookies, look, you're going to have about 4 rookies that are going to have top 100 seasons. Last year in a loaded draft class, we didn't have a single rookie crack the top 50.
Right.
So Paolo Banchero, I don't know. When and if this Jonathan Isaac fella ever plays basketball again, that's going to complicate things. They're just loaded at his position. It's mainly about situation. It's not talent. I think he's a very talented player, but I'm a little bit concerned about him getting the usage that he needs to be an impactful fantasy hoops player. I'm not worried about Keegan Murray nor Jabari Smith.
Same. I don't like where you have to draft Paolo Banchero. I think the last podcast, Matt, that I did with you, I think I even said, I don't want to draft a single player from the Orlando Magic in any of my leagues all year. Like, that is my goal going in, is to have no Magic players on my roster. And that includes Paolo, because I think that place is just, it's a mess. Everything Jared said was spot on. I mean, if Jonathan Isaac plays, that complicates things even further. But I think it's mostly, you know, if Paolo was going in the 6th round where Keegan and Jabari are going, I would probably have him on a couple teams. It's just he's going too early for me.
I think I'm also just a tiny bit worried about, you know, the formula for Paolo, at Duke, and we're not trying to cut and paste college numbers into the NBA, but he was just such a well-rounded across-the-board guy. And so far, I mean, just looking at his last 2 preseason games, granted, that's a tiny sample size, but, 17 points in each one, great, but only a couple of assists in each one, 1 steal, no blocks in those 2 games. I'm just worried, like, what if he's productive in a real-life NBA sense right off the bat? He's scoring, he's rebounding, but we're not quite getting the steals, the blocks, the assists that we hope for initially. And it could be the lights go on and he's great and he's better than I think he is. But given that he's the first rookie you have to draft, that's why I'm not ending up with him, I think. Just because I'm not sure. I haven't seen the kind of blow-up preseason game yet that makes you say, wow, that's what this guy's going to do. So that's kind of where I've landed on him and why I'm not quite ready to make that investment. Again, around 74 on average in Yahoo leagues. But hey, I could feel a lot differently a week from now. Guys, I want to talk about some of our favorite picks after number 100. And these are, again, on average in Yahoo. In some of your leagues, these guys may go earlier than that. They may go later than this. I'm going to say the ADP. I'm going to say the name. And I want to hear kind of just quick-hitting thoughts from each of you guys on these guys. And this is starting with the highest ADP outside of 100. Lowest, highest, smallest number. Trey Jones, ADP 102.6. Are we excited about him? Are we still excited about him?
Still excited. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I was reaching for him. I think I was taking him in the before that. So yes.
Okay. Jalen Smith is sitting at 118.8 on Yahoo. Is the quiet preseason a concern for either of you guys, or is that something to use to our advantage?
Marginally concerned.
Yeah.
You guys can say more than
like. You guys can say no. It's lightning, but it's not like, whoa, did lightning just strike or not? I don't even know. It's lightning, but let's see the lightning. I want to know there was a lightning strike.
All right. I feel like we shouldn't overreact to the preseason. That's always something. But we never really even got a nice flash. Like, it just really wasn't there.
No.
But he was so darn good last year as a starter. So I don't want to ding him too much. Maybe I should. Maybe not like 75 range. Maybe not reach for him anymore. But, shoot, if you can get him in the 90s, that still feels like good value.
Yep. I'm with Jared on that. I'm not reaching for Jalen anymore, but I'm certainly got him in my queue and am ready to take him when it's time.
I'm doing a salary draft with Jared and some others this evening, and after I accidentally blow my budget in the first 3 picks and I get like 3 guys I don't want, which is what I always do in salary drafts, I look forward to getting hopefully Jalen Smith at a reasonable dollar amount when I have almost no money left. I can't wait. Next name, Jared Vanderbilt has an ADP of 120.7. I know Jonas is still excited about him despite the acquisition of Lauri Markkanen. You guys say what?
I mean, I feel like if you need rebounds late, sure. I don't know. He's not that exciting to me. And his situation, quite honestly, isn't very good. His situation was exciting until they brought in 43 more centers. So,
Yeah.
Doc.
We'll talk about some of the centers in a second, Jared. I got to do one last audio crackling removal, and we'll bring you right back in. Okay,
Yeah.
Steve, your thoughts on Vanderbilt?
So I'm still a Vando guy. I think Jonas and I are on the same page here because I don't know that Lauri Markkanen is really going to slow him down that much. I don't know that Utah can really depend on Kelly Olynyk to run the middle to be their starting center every night. I just think Vanderbilt is the perfect fit on a team that's going to blatantly tank for Victor Wembanyama. And, I feel like we have overhyped Jared Vanderbilt in the past.
No.
Now I feel like he's right where he needs to be. Like, I think he's going to have a great year.
Some say Jared Vanderbilt's always been right where he needs to be, Steve. Some say our hype level is perfect at all times.
Same wrong.
Cam Johnson of the Suns has an ADP of 127.7. I find myself getting past pick 100 in some leagues, and I don't necessarily want to wait for that ADP on this guy. What do you think, Jared, about Cam Johnson late in drafts?
He's a great guy to take late, especially, with Jay Crowder. He's not going to be there. It looks like Cam Johnson's going to start. He's shown us what he can do as a starter in the past. It's pretty darn good. I remember, I think it was during training camp or something, he was being interviewed and he was talking about how he wanted to get back more into his scoring. That's who he was all through high school. And then he came to Phoenix and he accepted a significantly smaller role. But maybe there can be a little bit more for him to eat as a starter. He's still very young, so he has more to grow as a player. I think getting him after pick 100, that's solid value.
I'm right there with you. The Jay Crowder thing pushes it over the top for me. Matt, I remember a couple years ago when we were watching Cam in the playoffs and we were texting about Cam Johnson. And we're both like, man, I wish the Hawks had a guy like that. And he really hasn't been a fantasy factor up to this point, but it feels like the breakout is coming this year. Like I'm kind of all about it.
His per 36 line for his career is 15.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, a couple assists, 1.1 steals, and 3.2 threes. And I think, not that he's going to get 36 minutes a game this year, but I think those are numbers you can kind of imagine in your brain as a realistic kind of median, maybe, for Cam Johnson this year. That's kind of what I'm picturing. 15, 16, 5 boards, couple dimes, a steal, bunch of threes. Yeah. Probably good percentages. That's kind of what I'm picturing. Okay, Bones Highland, 128.4 is the ADP. Are we excited, and what do we think of him as? Do we think of him as a contingency draft pick where if Murray's out, man, he's going to crush it? Or do we think of him as a standalone guy, Jared?
I was higher on him before we knew that Murray was going to be ready for the opener. Now I'm just kind of over the moon with Jamal Murray as a value pick towards the 7th. And that's kind of lowered my feelings towards Bonus Highland. Not sure.
Not concerned about the hammy. Not concerned about the Murray hammy that has popped up.
Marginally concerned. Maybe I'll bump him down a couple more rounds, but he's a top 30 player that you can get very late.
Steve,
Bones? I am the opposite of over the moon about Jamal Murray.
That's a mistake.
I'm scared to death of Jamal Murray, man. He was out all year. He's already hurt.
We're talking about an 8th round pick.
He's already hurt, Jared. He's already hurt.
No, but I'm not talking about a 4th round pick.
Yeah.
Like what's the risk here? Like, okay, maybe he has a bad season. I took a swing around 8.
I love when you two get chippy with each other.
Maybe 8th. I mean, 8th round is fine, but I feel like he was going higher than that.
He wasn't
when we were drafting.
He wasn't.
I love Bones Highland, dude. I want Bones Highland on all my teams. His per minutes stats are off the charts. He doesn't.
How's he going to get those per minute stats?
He doesn't need a ton of minutes to produce. And when your boy Jamal Murray is sitting there in street clothes for half of this season, Bones is going to go off. So,
well, that would be true. Yeah, if Jamal Murray sits for half the season, Bones Highland will go off. But I don't see that happening. I think
Jamal
he's
Murray.
going to have an incredible bounce back year. I think I'll put my flag on that.
Okay.
All right. Okay. You guys, we are in agree to disagree territory there. Jaden McDaniels, 131.3 on Yahoo. We believe he's a starting small forward in Minnesota. We believe he's capable of getting steals, blocks, and threes. Do we like him as a late round flyer?
Yeah.
An F from Jared.
Really,
what about you,
no.
Steve?
If he's starting for Minnesota, I'm kind of feeling it. But I do like him as a sleeper. I mean, you're going to get him in the very last round of your draft, where there's very little risk of anything. I don't think Kyle Anderson should be starting over Jaden McDaniels. Hopefully he starts at small forward for Minnesota and has a good year. But the only problem is you've got D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Rudy Gobert all needing the ball in their hands, which means it's going to be very hard for Jaden McDaniels to eat. But
isn't that almost an argument for Kyle Anderson, who doesn't need the ball necessarily or isn't looking to score, but he's a good playmaker?
I don't know.
I'm not excited about slow-mo, but I will draft Jaden McDaniels. And I'll be prepared to drop him if it doesn't work out, but I think it's a worthwhile flyer given his skill set and the zero risk involved. Ayo Dosunmu has an ADP of 138.7. Lonzo Ball is out. We don't know when he will be on a basketball court again. Do we like Dosunmu as pick around 140?
Yeah. It seems like he's going to start, and there's word that there's concern of Lonzo not playing at all this season. So, yeah. And he showed us some great flashes his rookie season. So, yeah, if you're taking him with a last-round pick, a starting point guard, yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, I was kind of in on Ayo last year, and I'm surprised he's not going a little bit higher than he's going this year. It feels like I don't think we're going to see Lonzo Ball this year, and
which is insane.
Stinks.
That's insane. Like when you think about it.
I like Lonzo.
Either way, even if we do see him 2 or 3 months from now, it's still just a wild situation that it's taken this long. I will never take the phrase knee soreness lightly again. I see someone has knee soreness. Remember that? It was like, oh, Lonzo Ball has some knee soreness. Oh, okay, no worries. It's fine. It's not always fine. Like, let's not just take things at face value when it's something like that. Alexei Pokusevski, ADP is 139.6. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like it's a free swing on a guy who could easily be a focal point for this ridiculous team.
Doc, you got me. I'm finally on board. I'm on the Poku train. I think that, with that Chet Holmgren injury, with some of the flashes he's shown this preseason, I do think that he's finally ready to contribute in a meaningful way in fantasy hoops. Tankapalooza's on in OKC. I like him. I think that he's a solid late round pick.
I did not expect that answer to be coming from Jared just now, but Brandon, is it Robar? I think is the beat writer for OKC. He and I are always we're always hyping up the Poku Fest on the Twitter, and I first of all, I think Pokusevski's a lot better. He got better at the end of last year, and he's gotten better over the summer. And he's like, I think Brandon calls him Poku 3.0.
I like that.
I love it. I think he's getting better. He's hopefully gaining a little bit of weight, putting some meat on those bones. And with the tank going on and no Chet, I don't know how Poku can really fail this year. Like, he's going to have ups and downs. There's going to be times when you're kind of mad at him. Then again, J.K. Dobbins had 1.5 fantasy points for me on Sunday in my football league, and I'm not cutting him even though I want to. So, yeah, Poku's going to be kind of up and down, but I'm so fired up. I have Poku in probably every league I'm in.
That Poku 1.0 edition had some bugs in the system for sure.
Very much.
Well, the 2.0 had some glitches too.
Yeah. For
The
sure.
generation, the
For
third
sure.
generation.
The software. Yeah. They're close to getting it right. Tari Easton of the Rockets, the rookie. We talked about rookies earlier. We talked about his teammate, actually. How about this guy? 139.8 on Yahoo. Awesome summer league and preseason. I'm not sure what his minutes look like when the season starts, but I sure do want to find out, Jared.
That's my concern, though. It's just there's so many forwards on this team. There's so many players that play the exact same position as him. I'm not going to get, but we're talking about a last round pick. Fine.
We are.
Like maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. But that's my concern. Maybe I'll take him with a last round pick somewhere else. I haven't yet. And I have seen the hype. Like I have seen people reaching for him. I'm not going to be one of those people.
No.
It's just minutes. It's how do they come with Eric Gordon there, with Josh Christopher there, with Jabari Smith there?
Yeah. Well,
Jason,
he and Jabari, I think it's more like, I don't know, Eric Gordon and KJ Martin Jr. And it just seems like
there's so
logic would prevail at some point, but I'm not sure. And I just hope I have the patience to wait. But I don't know if I will. Steve?
Matt, I missed the name you were talking about. Is it
Tari Easton?
Yeah. Last round pick, last round flyer on that guy. I'm there. It's probably got to be a deeper league because I don't even think he's going to get drafted in some like 12 round leagues. But I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to have a fun season. I also, while we're talking about Houston, I have this funny feeling that Kevin Porter Jr. is going to blow up the league this year.
That's interesting, and it's funny that you bring that up because we had news this morning via Woj that the Rockets and KPJ have agreed on a 4-year, $82.5 million extension. And I will say, this is a guy who I think at last check actually is going outside the top 100 in Yahoo drafts. Maybe slightly more than that in hyper-competitive leagues, earlier than that, I should say. But it's another guy that I just cannot decide what to do. It's like tantalizing upside, and we saw it in a recent preseason game. I think it was 21 points, 7 rebounds, 6 dimes, 3 steals. We know he can absolutely fill up the stat sheet, but we also fear that he can just completely crater you in percentages and turnovers. Is it worth it, Jared? What do you do? Do you just pass?
I'm passing. I mean, I don't want Russell Westbrook either. So what's the difference? I mean, he gets more threes.
The difference maybe is that KPJ is, young enough that he works out some of those glitches as we were just talking about. Yeah. I mean, we have seen guys fix some of those. I mean, Terry Rozier is another guy who's a field goal percentage killer and isn't anymore. And we don't need KPJ to be good in field goal, free throw, and turnovers. We need him to not crush you in 3, right? Or in 2, maybe.
We have a lot of data telling us he does, though. That's the problem. I mean, I know. I'm not saying, maybe Doc's right, and maybe he does blow up this year. I mean, there's other analysts who believe the same thing. But I mean, I'm just not I'm not gonna take the plunge, I guess is what I'm saying. I'll watch from the sidelines.
Right. And it's going to be fun to watch from the sidelines on that one.
I think you need to be careful with KPJ. Like, I'm not telling people to run out there and draft him in like the 5th round, but if you can get him in the middle of your draft, like 7, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there, I think it's worth the risk. I think he's going to blow up. I just do.
Okay. Jazz teammates, just a few more names we're going to hit here. Jazz teammates Kelly Olynyk and Walker Kessler are going 141 and 141.7. Do we like either? Do we like both? I actually took both in a draft on Sunday night, thinking Olynyk early on, Walker Kessler later in the season. I mean, anyone? Any excitement here?
No.
No.
I mean, I feel like we are expecting Kelly Olynyk to put up the numbers he did in Houston, which is pretty unrealistic in my opinion. I think that the reason he was putting up those numbers is there was like no other offensive options. This team does have offensive options. Lauri Markkanen's one of them. That's the Utah player that I like. We also went through the whole preseason without seeing Udoka Azubuike. And I remember that Tony Jones wrote a column early in the sometime during the summer, saying that Utah may want to give big minutes to Udoka Azubuike to see if he can be an NBA player. So I think that's something that Kessler's going to have to contend with. Also, Jared Vanderbilt. It's just kind of a crowded situation here. I'm not denying Kessler's talent. This is another situation where I don't see how he's going to get the minutes or the touches he needs. And Kelly Olynyk, I'm never on board with the lunch lady, so sorry.
I have always been on board with Kelly Olynyk, and then when he had his big run in Houston, I kind of felt like I had won something or had something to celebrate, and I've kind of moved on to the greener pastures. And I don't know how many minutes Olynyk's going to get in Utah. We all know they're going to be tanking it up. I don't know that Walker Kessler is ready yet to really make an impact in the NBA. So I'm not too excited about him, and I'm just kind of not really that fired up about Olynyk either. Like, I'd rather take a late flyer on Isaiah Stewart, somebody like that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Isaiah Livers, I think I'd rather roll.
No, too far.
Honestly, yes. I don't think it's too far because they brought in so many centers. Don't they have 4 centers?
Who, Utah?
Hold that.
Yeah.
Jared, you've got one last crackle for the road here. Hold that thought.
Yeah. Look, they do have a lot of centers. As though Isaiah Livers is a step too far, Matt. That's like fighting words.
I thought so. Nothing against Isaiah Livers. But look, I mean, I just think Walker Kessler and Kelly Olynyk, sure. Is there a chance I drop them in the first week? Absolutely. I might immediately say, well, that was a mistake. And I might not have the patience with Walker Kessler. I would expect at some point this season, Walker Kessler is getting enough minutes at center for Utah to be a big difference maker in block shots. And I don't know when that'll be. And again, he may not be on my roster when that happens. A lot of these late round picks get turned over, so it's really taking a swing. And if you don't like how it looks early in the season, you have to weigh how patient you're going to be. And I'm not the most patient guy in the world.
If Kessler is blocking shots like you guys think he's going to be, or like you think he's going to be, I could see him being one of those guys that just bounces on and off of the waiver wire all year. Just like, hey, man, I'm going to pick up Walker Kessler for those blocks. And then you have him and he scores like 3 points for the week and gets you 4 rebounds and 1.5 blocks. You're like, maybe not.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see what happens there. Just 2 more real quick names for me before we get out of here, guys. Will Barton has an ADP of 145.5. I think he's set up for, yet again, Will Barton, a late round guy with some value now with the Wizards. It looks like he's set to be kind of the go-to small forward there early on. Jared, I see you nodding.
Well, I mean, I have him in a dynasty league. I've had him for almost 5 years now, and I don't know. I don't think I want him in other leagues, so I'm gonna pass. I get it. I think that there's value there, but I want to swing a little bit more for the fences, and that feels like a base hit.
Yeah, not a big Barton guy. I think for as late as he's going, he's worth taking a swing. But I'd rather go with some young unknown commodity if I'm gonna do that so late in my draft.
14.7 points, 4.8 boards, 3.9 dimes, 2.2 threes last year. I think he's an underrated fantasy player. And not awesome. Like the ceiling probably isn't that high at this point. He doesn't get big defensive stats, but I don't know. I mean, if you're out of ideas late, I just think it's a name to have on a list. And
yeah,
you can do worse. There's absolutely some floor here. Last name on my list is Caleb Martin, who I think is off the board in terms of Yahoo ADP and looks set to be the Heat's starting power forward. Now, we don't really think of him as a power forward in a traditional sense, but he is a guy who can stuff a stat sheet a little bit and maybe even get you some cheap blocks at the end of your draft.
Yeah, I think that's someone that's certainly worth taking a swing on. He's going to be in a starting role. It looks like he's going to. The guy behind him is a rookie, Nikola Jovic. Right. So, yep. I mean, there's a ton of opportunity here. I think that taking him with a last round pick, good idea.
The PJ Tucker role going to Caleb Martin, who may have who has a more fantasy friendly game, I think, than PJ Tucker.
Yep, I'd rather take a swing on Caleb Martin than Will Barton, honestly.
Yeah,
That's fair. That's fair. And I do think in the draft I did on Sunday night, Caleb Martin actually went before Will Barton. So I should have put Caleb Martin higher, guys. I'm sorry. He was last because his ADP is, I think, off the board. All right. That's it for me,
Jared,
guys.
do we know the draft order for tonight?
I'll randomize it right after this pod.
Man.
Maybe we should do it live on the pod.
We can't risk it, Steve.
No,
We had too many technical glitches. We can't risk it. We can't risk it. Once we've downloaded the Poku 3.0, we can do that, but we don't have the update yet, so got to hold off. That's going to do it for us, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you listen. Take a minute to rate and review us as well. We would appreciate that. We are on a Monday, Friday schedule now, so we'll be back on Friday with some takeaways from the very start of the season and some early waiver wire pickups. Good luck in your upcoming drafts. Good luck with the start of the season. Thanks for listening and watching live. Jared, Steve, thank you guys. I'll talk to you soon.
We're back, baby. Season starts tomorrow.
Let's go.